Happy 4th of July, folks. Welcome back to the midst of range. Now, some of my more astute viewers might have noticed something. Might be like, man, the lighting's kind of bad, and I feel like this isn't the same location that you usually record in. Good observation. You're probably thinking, what's this Joker up to? What's he doing? I'm pulling a Harry Potter in this one. I'm taking cover under the stairs, and that's because the storms are coming. And I'm not talking about like a natural disaster type of storm. I'm talking about a metaphorical storm, and it's hitting the Western Conference this season. And I'm so afraid that I had to take cover and let you all know right now. In all honesty, though, this is a really terrible setup. I'm moving back to my normal setup now. I just thought it was a good bit to do for the intro here, and it was. It had good meme potential, but I can't do this anymore. It's too uncomfortable and crowded in here. I'm moving back to the normal spot. I'll see you guys there. Would you look at that? Thanks to the powers of my subpar DaVinci Resolve skills, right back to the normal spot. Well, let's talk about this storm. What do I mean when I say there's a storm coming hitting the Western Conference? I'm talking about the power creep in the Western Conference. Now, those of you that are less nerdy than I am might not be familiar with the term power creep. So, let me give you a super nerdy example of power creep. For all my Pokemon fans out there, in Generation 1, the first games, there was a Pokemon called Dragonite, a dragon and flying type Pokemon, arguably the best Pokemon in the game. Just a few years later, by Generation 3, that Pokemon is rendered all but useless because a better dragon flying type called Salamence comes out and blows out of the water in every category statistically. And what was once a great Pokemon is now just like an alright one that you don't use that much. It's kind of what's going on in the NBA right now. Teams and players and team structures that used to be threatening, like for example the Phoenix Suns or Kevin Durant, are no longer that scary anymore. They're still good, don't get me wrong, but I'm not really that afraid of them the same way I used to be because of the amount of talent coming into the Western Conference. And I know people say this every year, but I really feel like this year the West is more wide open than it ever has been before. When you go through and look at the moves that a lot of these Western Conference teams are making right now, very few of them are getting worse. Most of them are either moving laterally or improving themselves, hence bringing on this storm. The team that ironically is probably bringing on a majority of the storm is the Thunder, OKC. When you look at their criticisms of their playoff failure this past season, the two main things that were brought up were that A, Josh Giddey can no longer be a part of their rotation, and B, they need a good center, a big guy to come help face off against the other big guys in the West. And so what do? They traded Josh Giddey. Not only did they get rid of him, they brought in Alex Caruso, who's a much better player than him. And they also signed Isaiah Hartenstein, who's been one of the best six men in recent years, and he kind of turned into a starter this past season with the Knicks after Mitchell Robinson went down with an injury. This has significantly improved their team. I don't think anybody disagrees with that. And they're kind of just the start here. When you look at some of these other teams, some of them have only added on the margins, like Phoenix. You know, they brought back Grayson Allen, who I hate and looks like Ted Cruz, but he is undeniably a really good player and important to their team. They also brought back Royce O'Neal, brought in Monte Morris, Mason Plumlee. Not a lot of big names, but guys that are definitely difference makers and add to their depth, which they were severely lacking before. Obviously, I made a whole video about the Pelicans, about how they've improved and how they terrify me. They're definitely a big part of this storm as well. Even teams like the Grizzlies that haven't really done anything, I still significantly expect them to improve next season because they were missing their best player for the whole season. And before last season, they were like a perennial top 4 team in the West like every year. I think people have kind of forgotten how good the Grizzlies are. Don't sleep on them. Even a team like the Spurs, they have Wemby, who is been improving like crazy. He was already here in his first season. You watch the Olympics now, he's only getting better. He'll probably be even better once the season starts. The one thing they really needed to do that people are criticizing them for was they need a true point guard. They need a guy that can, get Wemby into good scoring situations, be a good passer and floor general. So what did they do? They went out and signed a guy called the point guard, Chris Paul. I think that really raises their ceiling quite a bit. Even though he's a bit old and washed, he can still play make like an MFer. Even teams like my Wolves, I don't know a lot about the draft, like I've said before. Trading up and getting Rob Dillingham is a big deal. I think that is going to significantly help our guard depth. It might give take a little pressure off of Mike Conley's shoulders because he's getting old, Just all around, this conference is improving. The power creep is here. The storm is coming. I'm warning you all right now. Board up your windows. Stock up on whenever you need to. Maybe not toilet paper. That went bad last time people did that. But be prepared for the storm that's coming. It's hitting. When does the regular season start? October, something like that. I'm a bad fan. Sorry, but be prepared. That's when the storm's hitting.